biggest psyop on the planet. But y'all still watch it. Y'all still fall for their schemes. Y'all still let them divide. Y'all still let them give you labels and you pick a side. Y'all still let them magnify the negatives of black culture so that the world has a bad taste in their mouth about black people. Y'all still let them magnetize racism so that the world have a bad taste in their mouth about white people. It's all a psyop. It's all a program from the upper echelon to keep us apart, to keep us fighting, to keep us off of what they're doing. Keep falling for them. Good luck.
Great to have you with us. Please like, subscribe, and share. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks so much for showing up. Really appreciate you being here. Welcome to the Chris Highland Show. We got a great show for you today. This woman is absolutely correct. The media is 100% a psyop. The media is propaganda. They tell you a story, not the story. She's 100% correct. They pit black against white, rich against poor, Republican against Democrat, all in an effort to keep us fighting each other and not seeing what's really going on with the globalist cabal of corruptocrats. Well, Jen Psaki was on a podcast and she signaled the quiet part out loud. As you know, Comcast has already signaled back in November that they want to sell their stake in basically MSNBC. They want to spin it off. They want to sell it. They want to get rid of it. Why? Because it's a drag on their ratings and it's a PR black eye to the rest of their news division, NBC and CNBC. CNBC especially is somewhat fairly well regarded. And NBC, I think it's complete propaganda crap, but it does not have the same bad image that MSNBC does. And everybody knows that MSNBC is nothing but a big propaganda psyop machine. Well, Jen Psaki admitted that part out loud. We're going to dive into that. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for rolling up. If you could, please like, subscribe, comment, let us know you're here. And if you like this comment, please share it with everybody that you know. Let's dive right in.
And Jen Psaki is telling the truth for a change on why MSNBC is just an echo chamber for the left.
There's obviously a rooted value in the kind of like that MSNBC viewers expect of like, we're going to talk about the opposition and we're also going to talk about Trump, and it's typically not going to be positive. I don't think anybody watching expects it to be positive, right?
All right, Dana, I heard you react to that.
A couple, yeah. Oh, go, sorry.
Well, you know what the question is. I mean, there you've got Jen Psaki saying, well, they expect us to not like Trump.
Yeah, well, and yeah, but we know like she had lifelong Democrat, worked for Obama. That's how I first met her in the Bush to Obama transition. That's when we became friends. And then she worked for Biden. Like we all get all that. One thing.
How are you friends with this woman? I mean, Jen Psaki, unlike Karine Jean-Pierre, who everybody knows is the worst press secretary to ever stand upon that stage. I mean, the woman is a complete buffoon. The binder, who doesn't even really know what was in the binder. Karine Jean-Pierre was a complete failure. Jen Psaki, on the other hand, was a polished liar. Jen Psaki was not incompetent. Jen Psaki was merely 100%, or it was just flat out evil. Jen Psaki lied for the administration, knew she was lying for the administration, and did it with a straight face, not caring about the ramifications. So I don't know how this woman's friends, but they are talking about the right thing, which is the fact that Jen Psaki admitted on this podcast that they only push a narrative. They only push propaganda because they think, A, that's what their audience wants. And more importantly, that's what the globalist cabal, the people who pay the bills, want.
The thing that's interesting is that when anybody goes against type, it is interesting and it can really help. Yeah. I was reminded of this one time at the briefing room. We were under the gun when I was press secretary. President Bush's numbers were bad. And a reporter says, well, what are you going to do? Because your numbers are so bad. And I said, well, there's only two entities in this town who have worse numbers than us, Congress and you. And that was back then. So then fast forward, and I would just look at the last 4 years. I think that the Biden acuity cover-up, that is terrible. And now all these books are being written about it. The fact that the White House said, oh, Joe Biden is running circles around us at the White House. We knew that wasn't true. They would say that inflation wasn't a problem. They said it was transitory. That wasn't true. They said that the border was closed. It wasn't true. I mean, there's all of these things. Plus, then you add all the democracy is going to die as soon as President Trump gets into office. See, that's not true. So I think that
MSNBC does nothing but peddle in lies. That's all they've ever done. Nothing that they have said has been true for basically years now. Now, this is a little bit more of what Jen Psaki said on this podcast, the Grill Room podcast. We are going to talk about what the opposing party is up to in terms of Democrats, and we're going to talk about future leaders and things, and we're also going to talk about Trump, and it's not going to be positive. I don't think anybody watching expects it to be positive. Oh, so regardless of what the truth is, truth be damned, we are simply going to present a spin. We're going to present propaganda, something from a distinct point of view. That's not like a North Star thing written on a card and everybody does it slightly differently. That's the vibe. We're all going to basically say Trump sucks, Trump's Hitler, Trump's a Nazi, Trump's terrible, everything Trump does is horrible, Trump's going to fail. This is ridiculous. And then she goes on to say, I've not experienced this like you move to the center. You have to have Republicans on. You have to be more moderate. None of that. Every show has its North Star. And that North Star is Trump sucks. So this is where PMS, NBC, PMS, LSD, this is where all this is coming from. It's absolutely egregious. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Do these people really think that everybody's that dumb? So anyway, with that, I want to dive in because some of you may not know that, just how bad, if you haven't been there, just how bad it is at PMS LSD. So let's dive into this clip here. We're going to be talking about all the lies that they've told, not all of them, but just some of them. So here's Rachel Maddow basically whining that they're being thrown over for alternative media, for things like X, for things like YouTube. Check this out.
Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt? Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Donald Trump didn't give that contract to Elon Musk. Joe Biden gave it to him.
Elon Musk.
Oops. I mean, everybody remembers that one. So many lies. And then there was this one. Then there was this whopper that was perpetrated for months on MSNBC that started with Joey Scarborough. Check this out.
But comparing that guy's mental state, I've said it for years now, he's cogent. Mm-hmm. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. And, I don't know if people know this or not, Biden used to be a hothead. Sometimes that Irishman would get in front of the reasoning. Sometimes he would say things he didn't want to say. This is, and I don't really, you know what, I don't really care. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth.
Biden is not mentally impaired, and F you if you can't handle the truth. Everybody saw it with their own eyes. And now we know it from fact. Now we know it from all the same insiders that peddled this lie, both in the media and in the administration, that Biden was absolutely off his rocker with dementia as a general category, whether it was Alzheimer's, whether it was something else. He had mental decline, and everybody knew it, and they were covering it up. And it is for stories like the Tesla hoax. It is for stories like the Biden is competent hoax that that PMS NBC's ratings are absolutely abysmal. I mean, here's just some of them, and this is going back to right after the election. They are so bad. Morning Joe down 40%. Second hour down 37%. Mitchell down almost 40%. Ari Melber down almost 50. Joy Reid down almost 55. Hayes down 47. Wagner down 54. Lawrence O'Donnell down 60. Stephanie Rule is just a complete train wreck, down 67. There, the American public woke up and said, enough of the propaganda, lying, misinformation crap. We're out. We're going to go somewhere else. And the media absolutely started to freak out over that. Psaki, amongst others, started to freak out over it. Check this out.
One of the things that's changed even since I got involved in politics is just the rise of the percentage of people who get their information off of platforms that have no fact-checking mechanism and no accountability for having disinformation spread, right?
Right.
And as you know well, and I mean, when I got started in Democratic politics.
Now, she's talking a lot. One of the media outlets that they talk about is X. And this is an absolute, again, they are lying about their lying about their lying. X absolutely has fact checking built in. They have community notes right there built into the app where you can post community notes with data to say that a post has, factual issues. What they don't like and what they hate and what they rail against is there are no ideology-based fact-checking mechanisms. There is nobody out there lying about truthful posts that are on the platform. There is nobody out there spinning what would otherwise be a truthful story into a lie. That's what they can't stand. They cannot control the flow of information. They cannot limit the truth. The only way that disinformation and it basically lies, let's call it what it is. The only way disinformation / lies / misinformation thrives in a society is when the truth is squelched. When the truth is put down, then lies can foster. If information is allowed to flow freely, the truth will always trump lies every single time. It just takes a little bit of time. That's all. All right, let's go.
Most of it was like local TV ads. That was what it was about. Obviously, national TV, local print. Those local TV is held to a higher standard of accountability than social media platforms in terms of having accurate information on their platforms. That is crazy. And so it is. How does it change? How are people held to account? Laws have to change.
I want to ask you about one thing that.
So that's what they really want. Laws have to change. Wait a minute. People aren't watching the mainstream controlled liberal media anymore. No one's watching our ridiculous propaganda. Laws have to change. We have to pass laws that prevent people from going to other sources for media because God knows we are liars and they have a combination of lies and the truth because like any other, human-based enterprise, X has absolute people out there lying on it, but the truth always wins in the end.
It's gotten some attention this week from the book, which was a story you told about President Biden looking at his watch after caskets had come back from Afghanistan. The story was not told completely accurately, which you've acknowledged. I know some of the folks, including some of the families of those soldiers who were upset by that.
That story was absolutely told factually in the alternative media. By MSNBC? No. But everybody saw the video for themselves. All you had to do was watch. And it was over and over and over again. Those Gold Star families were pissed. They were angry. They were upset. They were infuriated by the lack of respect that Joe Biden paid for their loved ones who died because of him, because of his botched, failed Afghan pullout, which was completely, was a complete clown show. And those 13 people died because of Biden, because of his ridiculous DEI military advisors, their woke nonsense. And he doesn't even have the respect to stand there while their coffins are brought out. What time is it? Oh, can I go yet? Can I go yet? Everybody saw it. It has nothing to do. Oh, that story wasn't told right. No, all you had to do is watch for yourself. Well, guess what? People are no longer watching. And why are they not watching? They're not watching because of any level of disinformation or propaganda or anything else. They are not watching because they no longer want to be lied to. Check this out.
People, and I'm sure you see this online every single day, who say you don't deserve to be here because you're not a real journalist. What's your response to them?
Well, I'm pretty sure the group of people in there spent, 4 years covering for someone who was essentially dead, and that's being charitable in my description of him, a president by the name of Joe Biden. So to all those people who are apoplectic over having new media voices, you guys failed, and that's why we're here.
The chair of the White House correspondent.
Absolutely. The reason that there is alternative new media in Caroline Levitt's newsroom is because the rest of the propaganda media failed. And they failed not because they were incompetent, but because they chose to peddle lies rather than the truth.
Correspondents Association, a group to the.
And everybody knows there is no certification to become a journalist. There's no test that you take. There is no body of standards that you apply to. It's not like there's a medical review board or the bar association. There is none of those things. You basically show up and say, I'm a journalist. And you can say, that's why you've got all these ridiculous propaganda pundits that run around saying, I'm a journalist, when they are nothing. There couldn't be anything farther from the truth. Joy Reid, Jen Psaki, Rachel Maddow are not journalists. They are propaganda talking heads. Now, Jennings was on CNN. He is the only thing worth watching at CNN, and he just owns these people. But he was on with a group of morons, one of them a self-described journalist and a professor of journalism, and what he had to say about new media types. People like me, people like Benny Johnson, people like Dan Bongino before he took the job at FBI. He called us freaks. We're a freak show because we tell the truth and because we don't subscribe to their propaganda nonsense. Check this out.
The problem is that the right wing, hello, Scott, has taken advantage of this situation, I think, quite cleverly, quite wisely. They've played into a weakness.
What situation?
The situation of media being under attack. And so they've created a situation where...
You've almost got it. Keep going. What the right wing is taking advantage of is finally the American people saying enough is enough. They're tired of feeling like the mass media screens out one viewpoint versus another in political coverage. They're tired of media institutions favoring one party over another. They're tired of narratives over factual stories. If I had any advice for 60 Minutes or anybody else, it would be just cover the news and try to be fair about it and stop putting your finger on the scale, especially during campaigns.
You're talking about the old mass media myth that you could...
It's not a myth. It's absolutely true. We just saw clip after clip after clip. Joe Scarborough saying that Joe Biden is as sharp as ever and F you if you don't think so. When everybody in the world knew that he was not. Everybody knew that he had serious mental decline, that he could not find his way off a stage. He could not complete a sentence. Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, met with him, and he couldn't even remember executive orders because he didn't actually sign them. They were signed by other people, and he didn't even know what they were. So no, it has nothing to do. It has everything to do with the fact that people are tired of being lied to. And this Jeff Jarvis clown, who's a quote unquote journalism professor, is nothing more than a propaganda ideologue dressed up as an expert.
Could have this thing that was in the middle, the Walter Cronkite saying, that's the way it is, when it wasn't for many Americans the way it was, when people were pissed off.
People back in those days trusted the media, did they not?
No, they just couldn't be heard because there was no two-way. Now we have the internet.
Look at the Gallup polling. It was here, and now it's here. It's fallen off of a cliff.
Yeah, we do have that Gallup polling about trust in media, and now, as in recent years, and let's be honest, Scott, a lot of this is driven by the rhetoric on your side of the aisle.
I mean, it's not. You think it's driven by the rhetoric and not the performance?
Absolutely.
But my point is this.
Abby Phillips is another clown. It is not driven by the rhetoric coming from the right. It is driven absolutely by people watching videos for themselves. When you say that Joe Biden is as sharp as ever, and F you if you don't think so, and then everybody watches a video where he literally cannot get his own way off a stage, when he wanders around at a G7 meeting looking at the sky, completely oblivious to life, when he goes to the D-Day celebrations in France and he doesn't know where he's at, and he tries to sit down on a chair that doesn't exist, when he gets walked off stage because he's such an embarrassment. People watched it for themselves and said, the media's lying. They're 100% lying. When they look back at what we now know about COVID and what the media said for the better part of a year, and they said, nope, media liars, 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 we're out. They're out because they realized that the propaganda media was intentionally lying to them. Has nothing to do with rhetoric on the right.
If you're CBS or any other news outlet, the reason that you have lost trust ought to be obvious to you, and the way to fix it also ought to be obvious to you, and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with the product. Just try to make a better product that appeals to more people, and the way you appeal to more people is by not crapping on half or more than half of the country because of their values and political viewpoints.
Absolutely. Don't crap on half the country and don't lie to them. But they'll never get that because it's not about journalism. It's not about the truth. It's not about facts. It's about pushing the globalist cabal party line. That's 100%. It's about that, and it's about grifting for money, and that's all they care about. But thankfully, their reign is at an end. They are no longer the media. We are the media. They are now the propaganda media, and we are the media. As small as I am, people like me, people like Benny Johnson, people like Tim Pool, people like Joe Rogan, people like Benny Johnson, you name it, Trish Regan, Megyn Kelly, we're the media now. And people will get a much more balanced view because they can go to multiple sites and understand the bias behind them and then amalgamate the information for themselves. Now, thanks everybody for rolling up. Thanks so much. Really appreciate y'all. Please smash that like button, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you like the content, please share it with everybody that you know.